welcome to the next video. So in this video I'm going to be talking about what was teaching like when I first went to China. Well, there are a lot of different places where you can teach in China. One is university, the other one is international schools. There's obviously kindergartens, preschools, high schools, and then there's the training center. In my particular case, I worked at a training center called Web International English, which was a fairly well-known training center that had branches across China. Now, you're probably wondering, what's a training center? Well, training center is a place where you go to. Usually it's business people and some college students, where they generally teach you business English. So you'll usually have, like I said, working professionals, adults, a couple college students that maybe want to go abroad or want to work in foreign companies or want to be able to discuss business or maybe do sales, import-export, and so forth. So at the time, under my contract, I had agreed to 25 teaching hours a week, each class consisting of about an hour of a lesson. And in any given day, I teach 5 classes a day, 5 days a week, etc. And the way that it was set up is you have your schedule, might be 9 to 5, 11 to 7. Generally, a lot of people worked a 1 to 9 or 1 to 10 o'clock schedule. And you would have to work weekends generally because that's peak time for most people since they're not at work or at school. So you come in, you'll have a schedule listed. You'll have maybe, one class an hour after you come in, and then maybe an hour break to prepare, maybe 2 more classes, then you'll have your dinner break, and then the last set of classes. Most times it would be like 2 classes, 2-hour break, 3 classes, done. So those lessons, how they would be structured is we would have a cabinet, or it would be through the online system where you look at your schedule and it would say, I don't know, let's say it'd have the level of the lesson, so B for beginner, L for lower intermediate, and so on. And you go to a corresponding drawer, see where the lesson is, read it. There'd be a summary of what the targets were, what are the different activities you could do or should do, and any kind of target vocabulary or language. And if there was any handouts, they would be there, and they would be in a laminated sheet. So what you do is go through the lesson, make sure you had in your head what you had to do, and make whatever copies based on the attendance sheet that you were also given for each class. So if it was 10 students, and it was, okay, I have to make 10 copies of this particular form, or if they were doing a lot of pair work or group activity, maybe less or maybe more. And you'd be off to the races. Now, my first few weeks, I was fortunate that I had somebody to train me. So I observed a lot of classes to see the structure and flow, because some classes were meant to get the students talking. So it was more about fluency and picking up some extra language here and correcting mistakes, but it was always just pass, because the target, again, was just fluency, getting them confident in their speaking, getting them to practice things they learned in other types of lessons, and building up their confidence. And those were usually called salon classes because they were in big salon classrooms. The other type was what was called a private class, which consisted of no more than 4 students. The salons were 10, by the way. And it was more of a pass-fail. So students would go in and would go and watch a video, answer some questions, do some different activities on the software in preparation for that class. And then we'd ask a series of questions and have maybe some role plays and a series of exercises to test their knowledge in the things that they practice to make sure they got it. So if they did well, or met a certain percentage, I think it was like 70 or 75% in terms of being able to hit the targets or the goal that's set in the class, then they'd pass. And the lessons, like I said, were structured differently. We'd ask questions about the video they watched. What was the name of this person? What did A person ask B person? What was the problem that they were having? What job did X person have? Why couldn't they come to an agreement? Or what's the special feature of X product? All these different things, would be asked. And then at the end, we give the students feedback. At the time when I first got there, they had these student manuals, and it would have the lesson written on it. You would then give the notes based on what you observed in the classroom. Hey, you did good, with the grammar, and your speaking has improved tremendously, or your vocabulary is pretty good, or just the opposite. Hey, you need to review these words. You need to practice these particular grammar lessons. Here's some ways to do it. Or you did well, but you should also look into focusing on a variety of different phrases, not just using the same one. Work on past, present, continuous. All these sorts of things would happen. Salon classes were less. There would be some feedback, but not as intense or thorough, simply because you had 10 students and it's a fluency class. So these private ones were a great way to give them feedback and to see where they are progressing in their lesson and in their level. The third type of class, which a lot of teachers loved because it required zero prep, was what we call the free talk. And they had a big room where it could be up to, I believe, 50 students at one time. You come in, you'd have your chalkboards or and your projector and everything else, and they would it's just whatever they wanted to talk about. So if they wanted to talk about something in the news, you could do that. If they wanted to ask cultural questions about where you're from and how things are different there, or what places have you traveled to in China, hey, I have this problem with this grammar point, can you explain it a little bit better? Sure. And then you could write it up, or you can do activities with the students. You can have them come up with questions that no one's ever asked you. But it was, like I said, it was a free talk, so it's just, I would generally come in, say, welcome to your free talk. What do you guys want to talk about? And if people were shy to talk, I would just bring up a topic. Maybe it would be something in the news that's they would know about. Maybe something, I don't know, in something about the entertainment industry, or hey, I heard there's this new building going up in town. What do you guys think about it? Or I heard that there's this new singer who is making the rounds in the news, or any variety of topics. Obviously, there were some things that we couldn't talk about, and that was part of the initial training. Like, don't talk about religion in a way that proselytizes to students. If people ask questions, that's fine, but you can't. You must accept this religion as the one and true one, or else can't do that. Tiananmen Square, completely off topic. Can't mention it except if they say, have you ever been to Tiananmen Square? Yes, I have. What did you think? Oh, it's a pretty big place. But cannot talk about the massacre at Tiananmen Square whatsoever, even though students knew about it. And if you would ask and bait, you kind of had to tell them, look, contractually obligated to not discuss this. Sorry. Taiwan was another one you had to be very careful with. So you can hold a differing opinion about it as a country, but you kind of had to keep it to yourself or finagle your way around it. Let's see, Tibet was another one. You had to not go into the geopolitics there and human rights issues and all that. So, but other than that, all topics were game. And then obviously be careful what you say about the government, because a lot of your students will be CCP members. The last type of class we had was what's called an English corner. So same large room, potentially same number of students. The difference being that you would give a list of topics once a week or more often. This class I remember initially I had one a week, and then it got bumped up to 2 and 3. There was one time when I was working at a different center where there was a lot of turnover from the foreign staff. So at one point it was myself and a British coworker, friend of mine, and we were doing them all. So it was 4 and 5 of these 1-hour classes a week where, okay, I have to present a topic, and generally you'd have to have a PowerPoint when you're presenting this topic to have something visual for the students. So it might be something like U.S. states, or in the news, grab an article from the news, go through the vocabulary, go through the article itself, have a series of questions for them to discuss, and just, or do pair work, group work, whatever you can think of to make sure you're filling their time and giving them a lot of useful language skills, and making it as interesting as possible for as wide an audience, because these classes would have students from all levels. So your lowest of the low, who can only say, "Hi, how are you? My name is," to students who are perfectly fluent in English. So those took a few hours of prep each. The good thing is, after about 6 months to a year, you can just repeat them, because students' fluency would increase over that time ideally. So if they didn't get it the first time, they might understand it the second time. In addition to that, students may have forgotten that lesson or may have missed it because of scheduling. So it gives them the opportunity to see this particular subject once more. And the other lesson, and these were seasonal, was something they called an English corner activity, where Halloween's coming up, so we're going to do a series of activities based around Halloween. Or I know we did one for Cinco de Mayo, or May 5th. Okay, well, what is it? And we're going to have Mexican food, and an introduction to what it is, a little bit of history, and some games and activities, and also, it was more of a promotional event. Those were 3 hours. Fortunately, you had help from other teachers, so it was kind of a group activity. Just like Christmas was another one, where maybe one teacher would lead Christmas carol singing, another teacher would talk about the traditions of Christmas, another one would talk about the history of Christmas. Maybe we would go, I remember one year we went to a German restaurant and had a nice Christmas meal. So these were the different types of classes that you would teach, and that's how the teaching was. Most of the students were very studious, very hardworking, very diligent, very nice, a pleasure to teach. It was a great experience. I do miss it quite a bit. So that's what the teaching was like in China. See you in the next video.